Direct from Foxborough, Massachusetts, the gem of Norfolk County, and taped at the studios of Foxborough Cable Access. It's Foxborough Central. And here's your host, Bob Hickey.
And welcome to another fantastic episode of Foxborough Central. I am Bob Hickey. I am your host. Thank you for taking the time to join with me and my guests as we talk about the people, events, and organizations that make Foxborough the gem of Norfolk County. Now, we all know that we have a wonderful public safety service here in Foxborough, a very progressive police department under Chief Baker, and he actually was on this program several months back to talk about what was then an upcoming program of exchanging police officers here in Foxborough with a community in Haiti. And that was a Rotary Club project, I believe?
Yes.
Yes, and I'm now joined by the two gentlemen who actually participated in the exchange program. So I'm very honored and pleased to be joined by Detective Pat Hoffman. Pat, thank you so much for joining us. And Officer Steve McGrath. Steve, thank you for joining us here in Foxborough Central. So you made it.
We made it.
And you're back.
We are back.
Excellent. So let's talk a little bit about the program. First of all, the beginning of it was an exchange program to do what? What was the intention of this program to exchange police officers here and with Haiti?
To expose each department to the culture of another department and to see what we could learn from them. And when they'll be coming in, I hope in June, and they're going to learn as much as far as policing is concerned and basically our culture as they can.
Okay. And so your side of it didn't happen at the same time as that. You went in March?
Yes, that's correct. So
okay.
March 25th to the 29th, I believe.
Okay, so you spent 5 days over there. I guess it's about as much into immersion as you can possibly be. Did you actually walk the beat? Did you, what exactly did you do?
So it was a jam-packed week, and we had a lot to cover. And so yes, we did get to visit both the police academy and the community policing program that they have over there. One thing that was very impressive about their police academy is it clearly mimicked what we have over here in the United States, and that's because we basically influenced them drastically to create a program, a structured program, to have some great officers be produced over there and kind of stabilize their government.
And I suppose that goes towards the whole notion of law and order as an integral piece of having a civilization that works and functions. But they've had so many challenges over there, what with the devastating earthquake and the ongoing issues of poverty from a former colony, I think it was a French colony. So in your experience over there, what were your first impressions? And then dig a little deeper, what'd you come away with?
They're in their infancy of law enforcement. Their challenges are so much more broad than what we could ever think of. Their policing years ago was part of the military. And as a result, there was a lot of mistrust. There's a lot of bribery and corruption. And so they have to win over the generation of minds to get the people to trust the police again. Because basically what happened was the police separated from the military. And right now, the police are funded by the United States.
Okay.
So.
And it's a civilian corps. It's not military at all.
No, it's no longer part of the military.
Okay.
They're the national police, and when they made that separation, I think it was about 1995 or so. The United States has a lot of influence on it because they're funding it. And what they did was they started bringing in Haitian officers from New York as well as Florida. Oh. So they began rotating them in. So they basically took our concept of policing and installed it into Haiti. So really the most modern organization in Haiti is law enforcement because we're financially supporting it.
That's really interesting when you say rotating Haitian officers that live here go down there, because obviously there's that cultural connection, but one has to wonder, does the rule of law in America equate with the rule of law in Haiti? And I suppose from firsthand experience, what would you say?
I would say it definitely does. I think going back to the challenges, I think one of the big challenges that they're going to face is actually education. I talked to one of the drill instructors over there who's responsible for training all the Haitian police officers, and his question to me was, at what point do officers start writing reports? And that struck me as astonishing, because my answer is, as soon as you become a police officer, you're expected to write reports. If you think about if you had an incident in your life where maybe someone stole something out of your house, or you were a victim of some type of crime, and you came to the police department, you'd expect that a report would be written and that it would be investigated.
Right.
Over in Haiti, what it was told to me was you could potentially go through 5 different officers before even coming across an officer that was able to write a report because
Really?
of that degree of education that he or she had. So I think that's going to be a giant challenge that they have to overcome, and it's probably not something that they can overcome at a police academy, because it is a police academy that's only for so many months.
And the police academy isn't supposed to give you a general education. The police academy is supposed to give you specialized training necessary to go on the street, no matter what police
Right.
officer, fire, anything, accounting,
With respect to
anything
the
at all,
education that Pat mentioned, you have to understand they're pulling recruits from generations that haven't really been educated. So their challenges from a police academy standpoint are much more than what we would ever have here, because many of them are uneducated. They haven't really learned comprehension. So there's a much bigger challenge as far as teaching these new recruits, whether that's their constitutional law, criminal law, juvenile law. All these topics are completely new to Haiti.
Isn't that interesting when we sit, and of course I'm speaking with Officer McGrath and Detective Hoffman, who have recently returned this past March from a exchange program, a week in Haiti. It's interesting from an us standpoint to get our arms around, what the environment is like, and I'm not sure that I'll ever be able to do that. And so when we talk about the poverty, we talk about the education, not only is it a different reality, but it's something that's so far different that it's probably hard for most of us here in Foxborough Central to really even understand what you're saying. So when you talk about the educational, clearly they have schools, no?
Yes, they do. So what's interesting is there's a couple issues with their schools, and one of them would be language. If you're wealthy in the country, you predominantly speak French. French Creole is also spoken there. English is spoken there, but they mandate that their schools be taught in French.
Okay.
And that basically comes from the wealthier class. And as a result, you have a disconnect between the poorer Haitians and their parents who send their kids to school, and then the kids come back, and then imagine having to look over homework or help your child through the school process and not understand the language that's actually being presented in front of you.
So if I am a wealthy Haitian citizen and I send my kids to public school, is there a higher likelihood that I'll be not integrated into a classroom with a lower socioeconomic group? Or is it one of those things where they're all integrated, but the education is geared more towards the elite or the wealthier population? I'm just trying to capture, what does a public school in Haiti really look like?
We weren't subjected a great deal to the public school system, but the suggestion was that because this country has such an enormous poor infrastructure, and they've been poor for so long, that they haven't benefited from a modern school system. They simply do the best that they can with the resources that they have.
Gotcha.
You have to remember that it's a third world country.
And then the piece that I suppose where I was going with this is, so now who makes up the recruits to the police academy? What strata are typically your recruits coming from?
That's a great question. I don't know.
Well, one of the
You were there for 5 days. I want to know.
Yeah, one of the issues that they had, that the head of the police academy had told us, was that they would recruit so many people, then they went through steps, of course, to weed out people that weren't going to make it. And one of the issues that they had was with a number of candidates, they didn't have birth certificates. I mean, this is how far behind they are.
Isn't that interesting?
That they simply, there's no real ongoing effort to maintain records of births.
And part
So
of that
they had to
is-
do additional background
Right.
and find out who are these people before they're going to welcome them into the police academy.
Gotcha. And I suppose, again, it just goes to a complete different culture as far as what's important, what the standards are, and then what the role of government is. So it's not necessarily wrong, it's just different. And to that extent, it's interesting that the United States funds the police department and yet doesn't have the, maybe ability is the wrong word, but hasn't been more influential as far as creating a standard that is more similar to what we have. Or is that where they're going with this? And that's part of the reason why we have this exchange program.
I would think so. There's definitely standards that the Haitian police departments are mimicking exactly what the police departments all across the United States do.
Okay. So there is a desire on their side to create a professional police force that is responsive, that is following rule of law, and has these standards.
Right. And the theory that was relayed to us was that if they can make a strong centralized police department, that's going to be the entity that allows for a stable, more stable government too, on all different aspects.
Sure, sure.
So they're really focusing on this, and they really don't want the Haitian people to have a military. And so if they can stabilize the government, then there's really no reason to have the military.
Well, and they, being under that military form of government for so long,
There's an enormous
the junta,
distrust.
and there would be that, and then with the devastating earthquake and just the overwhelming poverty, there's not a lot of warm fuzzy moments down there that you can point to and say, hey, why are you acting this way? Clearly, it's an environment where it's a struggle. Life is a struggle, and so it makes the rule of law even more important, and that's why it's such an important piece of what we're talking about here, right?
Yep. And what's interesting, you mentioned life is a struggle down there in warm and fuzzy moments, but because life is such a struggle, you saw really strong community ties, much stronger than even in Foxborough today. You saw people because it was life and death situations every day. Just, we think about planning our lives out, what are we going to get for food this week? They think about what are we going to get for food for tonight? And we were invited into homes where families adopted neighbors' kids because the neighbors couldn't afford to keep the kids. So now all of a sudden you see family dynamics change like that. And I thought that was really interesting.
Interesting.
Maybe they're impoverished in the sense of monetary wealth, but as far as community wealth, they have very strong communities.
You always have to remind yourself as outsiders that this is their norm.
This is their reality.
They'd be very offended if someone thought of them as being poor. They're rich in their culture. What we might see as a struggle, they don't. It's simply, it's their norm. It's what they do every day. They're a proud community, and they simply, at this point, don't have the infrastructure at all. I mean, if you can imagine, the roads where we traveled were mostly dirt, rocky. There was still evidence of the impact of the earthquake, and but where there really is no tax base because so many people don't work, there's not any revenue to, for instance, street signs. Street signals. There's no red lights.
There's no water.
Yeah, in many areas there's no water, limited electricity. If they need water, they go to a community fountain where they get water.
Okay.
So their challenges were many.
And I suppose that brings us back to the reason of having an exchange program in the first place, to be exposed to a culture, to understand the strengths and the needs, and to get a better sense of who they are. So it's great that you're both back here after having been there. What was your major takeaway from your experience?
Well, I think I already mentioned it. I mean, I was blown away by the strong community ties that everyone had there, and just how people helped each other out in some very difficult times. It is a dangerous place, and as a result, people do try their best to help each other out and have a strong community. So I think that was my big takeaway. I was also really kind of blown away about their police academy and how it was structured, and how the courses almost mimicked identically to what we have here in the States, with the exception of a few things. I think EVOC wasn't on there. I don't think they had any EVOC, because EVOC would be our driving classes and stuff like that.
Okay.
You got to figure there's not much driving going on over there in the Haitian Police Department. There's some, but not a lot.
Interesting.
So
Oh,
a little different there.
Their challenges are many, and it's going to require an investment from other countries for many, many years, because their infrastructure is so poor and antiquated. There's just, I mean, the people, we had lunch with a Haitian family, and we also played a game. What is it called?
Jenga.
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 So we had a blast.
Is that
the blocks?
Yes.
It was a thrill to see the smiles of the kids. I mean, that was probably the absolute highlight of my trip. You have to differentiate the poor, what we would consider poor surroundings, with the spirit of the people. Their aspirations are really no different than ours. They just need the means to reach them.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm speaking with Officer Steve McGrath and Detective Pat Hoffman here with the Foxborough Police Department, talking about the exchange program that half of it has been completed. You've done your exchange portion, and then we're going to be welcoming 2 officers from a Haitian police department to Foxborough.
Yes, it appears that way. We're still working out some of the details, but
Okay.
it looks like it is on track for a male and a female police officer to come join us.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it, just to expose them to, our challenges, which in some respects really aren't that much different. A lot of what we do is community policing, reaching out to the various neighborhoods in Foxborough to make sure that they're comfortable with us, and they obviously trust the Foxborough Police Department. And they're now in the infancy of their community policing. So we hope to subject them to how we handle calls, how we interact with people, how we maintain ethics and integrity in law enforcement, because I think that's probably their biggest challenge, is gaining the trust of a generation of their communities that.
And it's probably one of the biggest challenges, of course, because as we know, trust is hard to gain and easily lost, and so
in the
every
United
day
States,
it's got to be everywhere, and no matter the profession. But with police, particularly coming from a former military, former government, it's a harder road to hoe. So a lot of credit to them for working on it.
And to the chief, because for what we were able to gain access to. It was the logistics behind it, being able to go to the embassy, and
So the UN.
the UN.
Well, you bring that up, and it's something I wanted to touch on, because Chief Baker, when he was in here, he was talking about the program and talking about the importance of being exposed to the different areas of need, and he's so good at communicating. And so let's talk about what exactly you did. I don't think getting exposed to is the right way to phrase it, but what interesting things did you really touch into? The UN you mentioned?
So yeah, we did visit the UN program. They have a whole mix of operations there. Specifically, what we were looking at was ways and means that they monitor protests and also aid the police in circumventing and getting through some of these neighborhoods. You have to realize some of these neighborhoods are built up in a night, and then all of a sudden they can change in a night. So an alleyway that was there at one point might not be there in another.
Really?
So as a police officer, it'd be very difficult to navigate safely, get through there, especially in some type of critical incident, and get in there and get out safely. So I don't want to go too in depth with the UN, because I don't think they'd want us to share some of their techniques. But they are actively aiding with the police department there, and trying to coordinate with the ground police officers and help them be safe, but also monitor situations where you have a crowd of people and you want to make sure everyone's safe, including the protesters. And that's kind of building up trust and stuff with the
And one of
police
the issues they
department.
addressed too was in Haiti, frequently they protest, very quick. there'll be protests, and from the ground level, it's very difficult to figure out how many people they're dealing with. So, one thing that we were able to see were the drones, and they were of a variety of sizes that they were able just to put up, go in, get a certain number of people, and then share that with the police department, so they could get a grip as far as what's going on, how many people they're dealing with, and what kind of resources they need on the ground.
So there is technology available to them. It's something more along the lines of it requires support from external sources, UN, the United States. But the reality is that the people are still living in a very poor culture, and very one that they are still recovering from the earthquake and still recovering from the colonization and the military government. Sounds like a lot of challenges. But overall, you found the people to be wonderful and to be very much similar to us as far as what they wanted in life.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, but I mean, we had an opportunity at the embassy to be with an English-speaking class, where there was probably about 40 or more people that showed up, and we sat at a table, we talked back and forth, and it was great to listen to some of their aspirations. We had someone stand up and talk about a kind of business that they would like to start up and employ other Haitian people. So, there's a lot of hope there, and I think it's just going to be a matter of having the support of other countries to get them over this big hump. But it's just a matter of changing the minds of one generation, because there's only going to be so much you can do with the ones that already experienced the corruption with the police and serious ethical issues, where there's no trust with any level of government. So it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And as long as we continue to support them, then there's every reason to believe that they'll be just as strong as any other country.
Detective, was it worth doing?
Oh, absolutely. I learned a lot. I actually did. And it was more political than I ever realized. We had a lot of political conversations over there, and it really was eye-opening, I thought.
Political conversations in that they're curious about us, or
one of the things that struck me was that we talk about the deportation of Haitians that are over here in the United States. And one of the issues brought up was from an individual who said that they believed in the deportation back to Haiti. And I thought it was very odd coming from this individual. I thought she was actually going to say the opposite. But as a result, she told me that, well, the people that we sent over to the United States that we are trying to get back to Haiti are actually educated now and have something that they can contribute back to their Haitian population. So they might be teachers over here, or they might be educated in healthcare issues. And so by keeping them over here, there's a potential that we're doing a great disservice to the Haitian country itself.
It becomes a resource drain.
It becomes a resource drain. And I forget the term that was used. Brain drain or something like that.
Sure.
Which I thought was an interesting concept. And that got brought up actually at our English-speaking club that had all the Haitian Americans there, or I should say the Haitian people there.
Sure.
And it was a mixed room, I think. It was a mixed room because some people thought, oh, they should stay over there, or no, they should come back and help with the Haitian people. Well. Yeah, that was very surprising.
With the English club that you're at that day, was the question asked, or did you get a sense that the ones who were learning English or who knew English, did they want to stay in Haiti to make Haiti a better place, or were they looking to immigrate? Or did it not come up?
I didn't hear anybody bring up about leaving Haiti.
Yeah, I didn't hear that either.
They're committed, at least that particular group,
right?
That subset was committed to being there and doing the things there that were necessary to make for better.
They wanted the American dream in Haiti. I mean, you could see that in their eyes, and it was clear to us that they simply wanted to fulfill their dreams like Americans do, but in Haiti.
It's good to know, because you mentioned the strong sense of community, and so that reinforces that. Excellent.
There were some misconceptions that were brought up too at that English-speaking club that
about
was
us?
Very interesting. Yes, about us. and about how our country works. I think one of the misconceptions was that there are certain states in the United States that people of African American descent can't go in, and they're not allowed to be in, and that it's a hard, fast rule.
Really?
And
Okay.
so that had to be overcome, and we kind of had to explain in a tactful way, that's not necessarily true. And just as I think the example that I brought up to them was, just as there might be neighborhoods in your community that you might see as more dangerous, there's communities and neighborhoods in the United States that are dangerous too, and that's maybe where they're getting their perceptions from.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it was interesting. They had some interesting perceptions of us as well.
Any others? That you were able to dispel a little bit?
Let's see. I think that one of the issues had to do with the United States presently deporting illegal aliens, and there was some discussion about whether or not, as a country, we had a responsibility to its citizens to keep track of who's on or who's in our country and who's left.
Interesting.
And but it was a friendly interaction. But I think that I think you pretty much raised the thing that stood out the most.
We are so close to being out of time. I can't believe it. I'm going to give you, of course, the last word. I want to remind everybody that we're here with Detective Pat Hoffman and Officer Steve McGrath, Foxborough Police Department, who recently completed the Haitian the Foxborough portion of the Haitian Foxborough Police Officer Exchange Program. Clearly an experience that was powerful, that you brought back some lasting memories of. Any last thoughts?
Steve?
Well, thanks, Pat. I would probably say that from a law enforcement standpoint, it was very well worthwhile to be able to be exposed to law enforcement in another country, to see their strengths and weaknesses, and also to see the culture of Haiti. And I can tell you, since the time I've been back, I've met many Haitian people, and I've even during traffic stops, where we've had a great conversation. Yeah. And there's also a decent percentage of students at the charter school that are of Haitian descent. So I believe there are a lot of positive things that came out of it, and I think there'll even be more positive things that we're able to expose to the Haitian officers. So we couldn't be more thankful, especially to the
Rotary Club.
The
Foxborough Rotary Club.
Rotary Club.
They helped us out a lot.
We can't thank them enough, because it would have probably never happened if it wasn't for them. And
then also our Corey from the UN to set that basically all up also. Not the UN, from the embassy.
From the embassy, Corey was a Foxborough resident, and she's now at the embassy in Haiti. Okay. And Venancia, who is a former New York police officer who was our guide every day. So we're enormously thankful.
Great.
For me, I think
time's up.
As a police officer, you come across all different types of people all the time, and from all walks of life. And for me, it's a lot easier to interact with those or different types of people if you kind of know where they're coming from and what backgrounds and maybe what their beliefs are and what maybe even misconceptions they have of you. So in going over to Haiti, it really helped me kind of understand the Haitian people, where they're coming from, what they lived through, and what kind of people they are. And I think that will translate to me being a better officer when I come and interact with a person of Haitian descent or a family that maybe immigrated from Haiti, and we'll be able to open up that dialogue and have an easier dialogue together.
And I suppose one person at a time, that's the way to make a difference.
One person at a time, I think so.
Excellent. Detective?
Thank you.
Officer, thank you so much for joining us here, and thank you to the Foxborough Rotary and the Chief Baker for bringing this program to us and allowing us to share it on the air with Foxborough Central. Thank everybody for joining us. We're so out of time. I'm going to say see you next time here in Foxborough Central. Take care.